were in month 3 of a big project, and the bank who was going to be giving us the money turned around and said they weren't going to give us the money.
Having said they would, and then suddenly, actually now, we can't now.
That's been really tough. It's really hard. But actually, anyone I've spoken to about this said, well, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right?
Everything's hard. You know, working a job that you hate, that's really hard.
There's challenges, they're curveballs, but I think it's about rolling with the punches and choosing your heart and saying it will be worth it in the end. You have to have a really, really bad week before you have the good week.
I just think it is the amount of action you take completely determines what outcome you get. Building wealth through property isn't about chasing big deals and paydays. It's about owning assets that make money for you consistently. But figuring it all out on your own, that's where most people get stuck. That's why we created this Property Life membership. It's everything we wish we had when we started. Expert guidance, real-world case studies, and a private community of investors actually doing deals, not just talking about them. So you could spend years trying to piece it all together yourself, or you could plug into a system that's already working for our community. Check out our membership page at This Property Life. Everything you need to know is right there. Success is a team sport. Come join in.
Before we jump in, let's tackle one of the biggest hurdles for property investors: finding the best buy-to-let locations for top returns. Over the years, we've helped countless individuals pinpoint the most profitable locations and maximise their rental income. To make it easier for you, we've put together a free guide to buy-to-let hotspots for 2025, designed specifically for you to understand the market, stay ahead of the trends, and it even includes a list of our top 10 locations in the UK. Get it now for free by clicking the link in the description below and start building your property portfolio today.
Hi, and welcome to This Property Life podcast. Here I'm with my other half, Caroline. Hi, Caroline.
Hi, how are you?
Hello. Right, question, going straight in.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. What are you finding hard about life right now?
Well, we have pretty tough since the 20th of December. So 5 days before Christmas, we were in month 3 of a big project, and the bank who was going to be giving us the money turned around and said that they weren't going to give us the money, which was quite a big curveball.
Having said they would, and then suddenly, actually now, we can't now.
Yeah. And look, it was nothing that we'd done. It was purely their circumstances changing. Where they're getting the money from has different covenants on the lending, and we didn't fall into the criteria anymore, which is on them. But as existing clients, you know, they were, we're going to solve this, we're going to solve this, we're going to solve this. And as it's turned out, we're the ones solving it. So
kind of solved ourselves at the end.
Yeah. That's been really tough. And I would say we've definitely done some soul searching about what we're going to do in the next 12 to 24 months. Is this really what we want to do? It's just really, really hard. It's really hard. But actually, anyone I've spoken to about this said, well, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? You tell everyone it's not easy. I'm like, all right, fair enough. Okay. And I do strongly believe, I know we're 8 weeks? How long have we been in this dark place? Probably 6 weeks.
2 months almost exactly.
Yeah. I do think that actually it's a blessing in disguise. And I even said at the time, this has happened for a reason. The money was going to be too easy for us to access, and it would have just been too straightforward.
I thought you were going to go into your woo-woo manifestation stuff.
Oh, shush now. I'll come on to that. But I do genuinely believe that this has been a curveball sent to challenge us and make us better and make us stronger. And what it's done, it made us work really, really hard to speak to many, many people that we hadn't spoken to before. And it's opened up loads of other doors that we know will be doors we go through in the future. So with my positive head on, it's actually going to work out absolutely fine. I know it will, but it's been bloody uncomfortable, really, really challenging. I would say mentally and emotionally, it's really pushed me. It's really pushed me. And financially, I'm not going to lie about it. Financially, it's been really challenging because, you know, January, February, as months of the year, are our quietest in the hotel business. So there's a little added spice.
Just chuck that in there.
Yeah, into the cash flow. So yeah, it couldn't have come at a worse time. It was the perfect storm of just before Christmas, merry bloody Christmas, need the builder to pay to keep his boys happy. Worst timing in terms of January, February, cash flow wise. And yeah, 2025 started with a bang.
Welcome.
In the wrong kind of way.
Welcome to 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a bit challenging, isn't it? So that's why I just thought it would be good for us to kind of update everyone and what we're doing. So we've had a few other episodes over the last few weeks on different things and with different guests on. So I thought it'd be quite nice to just,
to touch base. I think, you know, why people love the podcast is that we are really open and honest, and we share the bad as well as the good. I think one of our most popular episodes was all the mistakes we've made. People love us making mistakes, Nick.
I know, yeah.
I mean,
we could just... we could do a whole, well, I don't know, we could do a whole series, a whole year's worth of episodes on things we've messed up.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, that I think often when we're in a challenging place, really have to dig deep in thinking, okay, what is this teaching us? What am I learning from it? What's the positives that have come from it? And there's been loads of positives from it.
Well, let's name some of the positives, right? So okay. I think some of the positives are that when you're up against the wall, you have to take some action. You have to do something, because if you don't, you can see where that's going to go. I mean, it's just not an option.
Yeah.
Do something, right? And maybe we just got a bit complacent with our lender, because every time we'd ask them, they were like, yeah. You know, we got a bit complacent there. And I think if you're looking for good things that have come out of it, it forced us back out. It forced us to go, well, hang on a minute. We can't rely on, well, not just lenders. We can't rely on anyone. We have to go out and solve this ourselves. So it forced us out there. We went to, you know, lots of networking things. Caroline's always finding an excuse to go for a boozy lunch or a dinner somewhere, you know.
All work related, of course.
What?
All work related, of course.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, you know, but it does rewards. If you think about all the people we've met in the last 2 months, we wouldn't have. And a number of those meetings led to some really, really positive things.
Really good connections. And actually, you know what I'm kind of proud of is the fact that we asked for help. Like we, you know, contacted people who we weren't close with, that we knew in the Edinburgh property scene, and we said, we need help. This shit has hit the fan here. And what would you suggest? And I think that in itself is quite refreshing. There's no ego. There's no hiding away from it. It's like curveballs being thrown. I'm ducking and diving, but what would you do in your experience? Because you might just need someone else to have a different, fresh pair of eyes to look at it and suggest something that you'd never even thought of before.
Yeah, and that's exactly happened. I mean, literally our next door neighbour, who is a developer, so reached out and said, like, you know, kind of just get your opinion on something, go for coffee. And just going for coffee led to, you know, a solution that's come out of the blue. Well, not out of the blue. I mean, it's kind of created, but, you know, that one conversation gave us loads of ideas, gave us loads of contacts. We followed up those contacts, and that's led to, you know, a solution arriving, you know, in our inbox on Friday last week.
About 4:45. It was like, I do feel that since that curveball, we're kind of living hour by hour. Like something happens every hour of our day.
It's like the last 2 weeks has seemed like we've done about 2 years worth of life.
Yes.
In the last 2 weeks.
I've aged about 30 years in the last 2 months, but no, I think
gone through a lot of cosmetics.
Yeah, I've actually discovered Reiki. I mean, talk about looking at different things. I'm like, I need to change my vibration. I'm off.
We did a sound bath.
That's right.
Like that.
I did a Reiki session and was like, not got a Scooby-Doo if that's worked, but hey, I'll give it a shot. If someone reckons that I need to change my energy, I'll do it. Interestingly, on the Reiki session, she said that over my kidneys, there was a lot of fear that I shouldn't have, and I should just scrape that fear off because that fear has no foundation. And I've pretty much clung to that for the last
What's the relevance of the kidneys?
Well, apparently that's where you keep your fear. Anyway, that's for a different podcast episode.
Normally where I process my alcohol.
Yeah, but we went for a sound bath.
We did a sound bath, a gong bath. Well, you just threw that out there. You were just like, do you want to go for gong bath? I'm like, yeah, cool, let's do it. Surely it can help. Anything, whatever.
This is making us sound completely crazy. But in all honesty, when your back is up against the wall, you're like, I'll try literally anything. And if that's going to clear our vibrations and raise it, then I tell you what, we did sleep a lot better afterwards.
I slept during it. It was great.
Not sure. Well, yeah.
Not sure I was supposed to do that, but I did.
Yeah, I could hear you snoring. Anyway, so Reiki, a bit of gong bath action. No waters involved. There's no nakedness. So we've tried that. We've done lots of meeting with people, asking for help. And from that have met new connections. And actually, if we'd known these people before the curveball, we would have had a solution within hours. of that curveball being thrown our way. So
now what it's meant is that, so we've had to dig deep to find that solution. We're still not, it's not 100% all, tied up in a nice bow just yet, but we're a lot further forward and we can see the way out. And I think we both said this. We said that in 6 months' time, we will look back and go, that was the best thing that could have happened at that moment. Like when you're in it, it's like the hardest thing to deal with. And that's when, a lot of people are saying to us, God, I can do what you do. How do you cope with all this? It's like, well, everything's hard. And that's what led me to think about this episode was like, everything's hard. Everything you do is hard.
Yeah.
And you choose which one, what kind of hard do you want? And, that was hard. But in 6 months' time, I think we'll look back and go, yeah, I'm glad that happened. I'm not there yet. Quite far from being glad that happened at this moment. But I do think that will come. Maybe when I'm up a mountain in the Himalayas.
Yeah. So Nick wants to climb the Himalayas in October. He's tried to sell the idea to me. I like the idea of the scenery, but the non-warm running water and flushing.
It was a toilet situation, wasn't it?
It was the toilet situation. I'm not going to lie. The sleeping in your clothes and needing to take a pillowcase because all of the linen is so disgusting that I was out. I was out at that point. So you can think about that when you're up the mountain, and I'll be in a 5-star hotel somewhere else. But it also pushed us to list John's place probably earlier than we would have.
Yes. So we've listed our second Edinburgh place, John's place. It's not, obviously finished yet, but we thought, well, look, actually, we can't risk missing the summer window. Like summer is the big kind of season in Edinburgh. I mean, Edinburgh's pretty much all year round, apart from January, February, which is
obviously
a bit annoying. You don't want to miss that. And the booking window is normally about 90 days out. So we had to get listed, even though we haven't finished. So we haven't got photos. So we've had to, use CGI imaging and kind of, get it listed on the OTAs, online travel agents, and see what happens. It was a bit slow because when we opened Edinburgh at Stafford Street, it was like, ping, ping, ping with bookings coming in.
Yeah.
A bit slow on John's place. I think it's because we're using CGI images, but they've started to come now. We've already got quite a lot of bookings in the system for the summer. May and August particularly starting to fill up. So, that pushed us into doing that because, again, that's going to help with our lending when we can go to other lenders and go, look, we are taking bookings. We're not even finished to build yet and we're taking bookings.
Yeah.
And so it's all just, telling the story, I think, to lenders. And if we just relied on the original lender, we wouldn't have had to do any of that.
Yeah.
And, again, complacency. So,
yeah.
How
many times did I say in the last 7 weeks, bloody should have just stuck to buy-to-lets? Should have just stuck with bloody buy-to-lets.
But then,
for those of you that are starting out, buy-to-lets are just, they might seem a bit boring and slow and a bit small fry, but they are such your bread and butter. But
also, if you rewind 15 years, that was hard.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that was hard because we were trying to do it alongside other jobs and, a business that we had and trying to do vital. So that's also hard.
Yeah.
Right.
You did say to me, you got to choose your hard. And it reminded me of a quote. I think I shared it on my Instagram about choosing your hard. Like marriage is hard, but divorce is hard. Choose your hard.
Yeah. Well, I actually nicked it off, and she probably got it from somewhere else. Got it off this book, Katie Sanchez. So I'll give her a little plug. I don't know that she particularly needs it, obviously. Great book, this one. I'll comment on that in a minute. But I took it from there because she talks about that quite a lot on a podcast. Choose your hard. Everything's hard. Working a job that you hate, that's really hard. Yeah. Retiring in poverty, we covered that in an episode recently. That's hard. Right. Starting a buy-to-let portfolio, that's hard, particularly if you're working. I know Sarah and James talked about that on the last episode, where James has created this amazing portfolio and stuff he's doing whilst holding down a high-level full-time job. So anyone that says, oh, I can't do it, it's too hard because I got a job, well, go and listen to that episode. So everything is hard, and that's what kind of I thought we could talk about it and take
selling the dream of life right here. Everything's hard, but there's challenges, there are curveballs, but I think it's about the punches and choosing your hard and saying it will be worth it in the end.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think about property. We obviously talk about that as a solution. There are others, to not having a hard retirement or living in poverty when you retire.
Well, even share trading. I mean, if you were to do,
I've tried that. That's really hard.
It's really, really hard. That's a different mindset altogether. I've been trained in it and I love the fact I've got knowledge in it, but it's
hard. Mentally, that's really hard. So everything that's worthwhile doing is hard. Okay. So, it's just choose what kind of hard you want to have. You might think it's easy to, I see you smirking there.
I'm just thinking about other things that are challenging where you choose your hard. And it's like, getting fit and healthy and losing weight, that's hard. But also being fat and unhealthy, that's also hard.
Yeah.
You've probably enjoyed getting fat and unhealthy along the way.
It might be nice eating the pork pie at the time, but
running a marathon and training for the marathon, that is hard. Just anything that has that sense of achievement at the end of it, has its challenges. Bringing up kids, bloody hell, that's hard. No one tells you that. Well,
that's hard, but then I would look fast forward, to the future, and you're retiring and
they have to look after you.
Then that's probably quite hard. Or being lonely when you're older because you haven't got kids. That's probably hard. So nothing is easy.
Yeah. No, I know. And look, I feel we need to give some value in this episode rather than just be like, everything's so hard. How do we handle our hard? That sounds really weird.
That does sound a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. How do we overcome it? And when things feel overwhelming, what small little steps can we take that make it feel more manageable? Because I think the big thing is the overwhelm, right? Overwhelm of, oh God.
The easiest thing in the world is to just covers over your head and go, I'm not dealing with this today. And I've said this quite a lot recently. I think, it's really easy just being survival mode. And for anyone that was on, that came to our networking event for This Property Life, the beginning of February, would have seen Pete Cohen talk. And Pete's coming on the podcast soon. Big news. And he talks about getting out of survival mode and into thriving mode.
Yeah.
Just coincidentally, at that time, I was actually watching, what was I watching on Amazon? I was watching Ed Stafford, the survival guy. I know.
Oh yeah. God, I hate that program. So Nick watches this program where the guy is just dropped into the desert and he's got to survive in bare feet, no food, no water. And he's like,
it's literally a pair of shorts. He's in a pair of shorts. In fact, the first few episodes, he wasn't even in a pair of shorts. He had to make it He used to be dropped in naked the first series.
Okay, I'm glad I missed that.
But he now is allowed a pair of shorts. But he gets dropped into extreme environments and he has to not just survive, but it's thriving, right? So thriving for him in that kind of environment is not just, getting through it, but it's being able to build a shelter, be able to build a fire regularly and so he's warm, be able to find fresh water and supplies of food and catch his own food. And, so he could essentially thriving would be living indefinitely in that situation if he chose to do it and to enjoy it rather than just getting through it and surviving the 10 days or so that he's dropped there. So that was his challenge. Something about that just really resonated with me. Then I saw Pete and who talks about exactly the same thing, not just surviving, but thriving. So he's going to talk about that. I'm not going to go into as much of that now, but it really kind of stuck with me and think, well, look, we have to just get through the bit that's really hard, but actually also, learn something from it. And I think what we've learned in the last few months is how to thrive, even when, the shit hits the fan, something totally, blows up in your face, goes wrong. And you've actually got to dig deep and go out there and try and thrive in that situation rather than just pull the covers over your head and go, I'm not dealing with it.
Well, I think some of the fundamentals of what we did was going back to basics. So all the things that we teach our listeners about, which is your network is your net worth, ask for help, leaning on people who are further ahead than you are, leaning on them, also going to, back to basics and going, right, what resources do we have available to us? All hands on deck. What options have we got? Don't be blinkered on how we approach this. Just completely open it up and start thinking about every single different angle.
And I think we talked about it. So who can help us right now?
Yeah.
And we, we kind of made a list and we went and talked to we reached out to all those people.
Yeah.
And I think it's very easy and we get this a lot actually with, members that have come to our training who disappear and then they might reappear a year later, go and ask for help on something. You go, well, where have you been? We could have dealt with this a year ago rather than you get yourself into this hole that's harder to claw out of the hole when you've been in it on your own for 6 months or a year. So we were really careful, to not do that and to, not just pretend everything's all right. It's like, well, it isn't. We've got to solve this.
Well, I think also, an angle that we were very conscious of is there I am on Instagram talking about how to do this and how to do it well. And here we are on the podcast talking about how to do it and how to do it well. And then, well, suddenly we've hit a bump in the road. Can we talk about it? Should we talk about it? And like, we didn't even need to think about it. It was like, absolutely. Like, we have to be authentic and share all the bad stuff as well as the successes that we have, because otherwise people are just not going to, well, see the weight behind this. If it looks too easy from the outside, it doesn't stack up. I mean, when you read any entrepreneur's book, like Richard Branson's book, Losing My Virginity, where he talks about, you know, the businesses that failed with Virgin v Cola and Virgin v Makeup, you know, that makes you resonate. Well, it makes him far more relatable, but also you respect him for the successes he's had because he's gone through those failures.
But he's also happy to talk about it.
Yeah. But there was a slight hesitation for a nanosecond on, oh God, we're going to have to share this absolute nonsense with other people. So just to give you a little idea of what happened, to show you that, you know, this was not something we could have controlled at all. Our lender that we are with was going to use the valuation of one of our other assets to release money to give us the cash to develop this asset. So kind of like a cross collateral type loan. So they are the first charge holders already on the development, and they want to use another asset to release the cash to finish it off, right? Sounds sensible. Great. It went through credit. The credit committee passed it. The valuation came in exactly where we needed to. Everything was firing on all cylinders. I'd even said to the interior designer, don't worry, you'll get your money by the end of the week. And then we got the phone call saying, actually, because we get our money from a different bank now, because all the banks get from different sources, right? The covenant states that we cannot lend money on the basis of an MV1 valuation on that asset. We can only lend on vacant possession value, which was considerably lower, which meant then that there was no money to release to us. So yeah, it was a curveball that you can't foresee happening. But for those of you that do get into the bigger stuff, you know, this happens a lot in development finance, a lot. You know, you've got the loan there, you're midway through the development, and then the QS might come on site and see something on site that's not on the drawings, and then that's you broken a covenant and they pulled the lending. You know, so we've heard of that happen a lot over the years, and but we've never ever heard of it happen like this through no fault of of ours. In fact, they even said to us, we highly recommend you complain about us. And I'm like,
that's not going to get anywhere. That's just a waste of energy. That's
a waste of energy. In fact, I've had 3 people say you should complain to the ombudsman. It's like, that's not going to get me the money. That's not going to solve what I need. I'm not spending my time on that negativity. I'm going to spend my time and energy solving this.
Well, exactly. It'd be easy to throw your hands up in the air and go, we're a victim. You know, this has happened to us.
So this
is terrible. You know, we're going to go after them. Well, it's like negative energy. It's like, look, that's gone.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. There's no point fighting that. Let's just focus on what we're doing now. What action can we take now? So
things that they said to us that we could do. And this is our existing lender. Bear in mind, they've got a first charge on the development. So it's in their interest for us to get this finished. And they said, you're going to have to down tools. You're going to have to delay the build. I'm like, no, that's not an option. The longer this is delayed, the deeper the hole gets, right? Because if my builder goes off somewhere else, starts a new job, how am I getting him back?
And also, the end point is, with the type of buildings that we're doing, as soon as you're finished, you can open the doors and earn.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like you have to wait for a tenant or whatever. It's like doors open, you're taking bookings. And you can take bookings on the day that you open.
Yeah.
As long as you organise, got everything ready. So, the absolute value in the buildings that we're doing is the revenue that they produce. So
it's got to finish.
It's got to finish. It's got to be open.
It's got to finish.
There's no value unless it's open. So
that was one
anything that was about delaying and not finishing was like, nah.
Yeah. So they were like, oh, this is what you're going to have to do. And I'm like, you're a banker with a W at the front. I'm not going to take your advice. This is carrying on. I don't care what you say. This is carrying on. The next thing they suggested was, well, we've got this solution. We can maybe put some second charges on some of your other properties over here and da-da-da-da. And they came up with this convoluted thing where they'd get us the money, but they'd need to put 8 second charges on 8 of our properties. And I'm like, I know how long that's going to take. That ain't going to be quick enough. And it's a complete ball ache.
25 grand's worth of fees to do it. Time, effort,
ridiculous.
Valuations. It's just like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better solution.
Yeah. And then he was like, you're just going to have to string your builder along. We've got other clients that just string their builder along. Like, not doing that either. Like, your reputation, this builder's a good builder. He's been super fast. He's super efficient. Okay, he doesn't look great on Company's House. That's another story. But he's a good builder. And my reputation with him means that I want to work with him again. And I'm not going to threaten someone else's livelihood and damage their business just because you, Mr. Banker, can actually deliver on what you said you could deliver on. And, you know, he was embarrassed because their credit committee clearly didn't know what they could lend on either, because they passed it, for God's sake. So, yeah, it was interesting how they were telling us how we could solve it, and none of them were options that we were willing to entertain. It was just like, nah, thanks very much, but no, we'll go elsewhere and sort it in a different way, in a way that is more aligned with how we want to behave and how we want to act in this business. Because stringing a builder along, you know, he's got subcontractors that he needs to pay. It's just not an option.
It's another choose the hard that you want, you know.
Yeah.
So that would have been hard to go down that road, but actually it was harder, I think, to go out and solve it in a different way. But that sat better with us to go and solve it ourselves. But it's, you know, we went to some of our high net worth individuals that we worked with before.
Yeah.
And, you know, one that I thought, oh yeah, they'll definitely do it. It's like, no, I just had 3 investments go bad, so I'm not looking to do anything right now. And it's like, where's all this coming from? And just every path we turned, because I dead end. It
was in January, sort of first, second week in January, we were like, do you know what? We've got a lot of lines in the water here. Like, there's going to be a nibble somewhere, and I'm feeling really good about this. And then come late January, they'd all just completely fallen to nothing, and they'd all started quite positive. Yeah. And then actually, nah. And again, things that we can't control. That was really despondent. Yeah, I felt really at one point like, shit, like we're doing everything we need to do, but it's just not coming good. But we just kept going, kept the pressure going. And then I would say last week was an absolutely triumphant week.
It just went from 0 to hero, didn't it, last week? So the week before was horrendous.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Everything was just like, no. And then last week, suddenly, it seemed to, I don't know, maybe it's the gong bath finally had an effect, cleared all our energy.
I don't know. I think it is the compound effect, and it's maybe, you know, it's darkest before the dawn, you know, that you have to have a really, really bad week before you have the good week.
I think what it actually is, you can look into all of that and whatever. I just think it is the amount of action you take completely determines what outcome you get. And I think it was just the fact we kept going and going. And it would have been easy to not do some of those meetings, not reach out to some of those people.
Yeah.
Really, really, really easy not to do those things. But, you know, we didn't. And one of them, fingers crossed, looks like it's come good.
Yeah. You know, I'm feeling really positive. We've got 5 weeks of the build left, which means we've got 5 weeks to get this financial solution over the line. And as it turns out, our existing lenders' term with us is up in 5 weeks' time. So the pressure really, really is on for this 5-week window. And we've got 3 lenders that we have to all tie together within the next 5 weeks. And they all have to do it in exactly the order that they need to do it in order for things to go smoothly. And we're sitting there kind of holding our breaths going, this seems pretty unrealistic that it's going to happen. However, everyone's saying they're going to do it. Everyone's saying that it's possible. So we've got to believe that until it's not possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's been a bit of a challenging couple of months, but I think we are coming out of it. And as I said, I think 6 months' time we will look back and say it was a good thing that happened, because it forced us out of a comfort zone that we were in.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, just got to be kind of thinking about, well, what lessons are there for not just us, but for anyone else listening. And I think, you know, I've talked to quite a lot of our This Property Life members, people who are at our networking events. I think people are finding it hard to get into property and to find the time and to, to make the correct offers. We've speaking to somebody recently who put a couple of offers in just so they want to get something done, but they weren't great offers, and
they weren't good offers at all.
So we were like, no, that's just not good enough. You're gonna have to pull out of that one, and this one possibly might work, but come on, you need to do more. You need to get out there and do more. And it's hard. And that's what I was thinking about this. It's like I think there are still some people that go into it thinking, oh, property sounds easy. It's like, look, we don't, we just want to be realistic about that and say, look, it isn't easy, but it is worth it. It is worth it because if you don't do something else, you're just kicking the hard down the road.
Yeah.
You're kicking it down the road 10 years, 20 years, whatever. But at some point, life is going to be really hard. So it's like, do you want to do the hard now, or do you want to do it when you're in your 70s? I know which one I'd rather. I don't want to be working down at B&Q when I'm 70.
Yeah.
So it's about, working on that, the mindset. I think so much of it is so much mindset. In fact, I put into ChatGPT earlier, right? So I always do this just for an episode, just to say, right, come on, ChatGPT, what have you got for me? To say, look, I'm doing an episode on this kind of subject. What would you suggest? And number one point from ChatGPT, I was going to look at kind of
Finish the sentence.
Yeah, being wealthy. I've kind of a bit of background. Being wealthy as opposed to like being rich, right? And I put that in. I said, ask a question. Number one was mindset. Get your mindset right about what it is you're trying to do, about what the difference between being wealthy and being rich is. I hate the word rich. It's an awful word. I think it gives the wrong impression at all about what it is we're trying to do. But wealthy is a different mindset, completely different mindset. But to do that, we've talked about this before. There's only 3 ways to do it, right? To build. For me, you got to own stuff. There's one way to do it. You got to own stuff. That's it. And not stuff that, crap, but you got to own
Nike trainers.
No, not that. Well, it depends what, no, it depends what kind of Nike trainers.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right. Because if you know what you're doing with buying trainers, there's a lot of money to be made in that. But you've got to do something that ends up with you owning something that produces income. That's it. That's the bottom line, really. So it's either got to be property, or it's got to be a business, or it's got to be stocks that give off income. That's it. That is it. So, one of those things you got to, otherwise you're kicking your hard down the road, but it will bite you on the arse at some point.
I do think 2025 is going to be a really interesting year because you've got, the national insurance about to start biting, and businesses are going to really start to struggle. You're going to see the media absolutely determined to create some form of economic gloom and doom. Rachel Reeves will get the brunt of it all. There's going to be a lot of misery for a lot of people because inflation is not under control. And so there's some real opportunities up ahead for those of you that know what you're doing and that you're in a position to jump on those opportunities. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about this year. We just need to get these 5 weeks done and dusted, and every hour that passes, we're closer to it.
That's it. But once you get through this, we can look at our assets, and we're going to have, we've been told.
Oh yeah.
That we have to have, Caroline doesn't like this at all, that we have to have a little bit of a pause in terms of a reset and a bit of a consolidation period.
I bloody hate that word.
If anyone's watching us on YouTube, you can see Caroline's face. And for those of you listening, you can just imagine Caroline's face at this point. So yeah, that's going to be a different opportunity for us, is to, to just have a bit of a reset, a bit of a pause, just let everything that we've done in the last 2-3 years with the hotels start, producing and coming to fruition without having the constant outlay for new projects and all that. So it's going to be a little bit of a different phase of life for a year.
Not buying stuff. I can't even bring myself to think about it. But you basically said to me, Caroline, I want you to sign a document that says legally you're not going to buy anything. I might do some buy-to-lets the way. That doesn't count.
I think what I said was, I will not sign anything, any piece of paper.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
But that
we both have to sign everything, right? So it's like,
well, unless I set up a limited company with just me as the director, and I can just buy in that.
Fine, on you go.
To every problem, there's a solution, Nicholas Claydon. Yeah. I can just buy it myself. Don't need you.
On you go, fine.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be a good girl. I'm going to try really hard to be a good girl.
But then I read this book.
Well, you have to tell the title because not everyone's watching YouTube.
Okay, so Cody Sanchez, Main Street Millionaire. Now, I normally hate books that have the word millionaire in the title, but I did kind of force myself to get this one, so it was highly recommended. I listened to it actually on the Ivy CEO podcast, and she talks a lot of sense. So this is about somebody who basically buys businesses, started off buying a laundrette, worked in a big corporate company before, wanted to buy a business, bought a laundrette, and then built, a big business empire off the back of that. But it really resonated because everything she talks about in that book is exactly the same stuff that we talk about in terms of property. It's just different. It's just, she's found her niche buying, basically what this is about is buying what she calls boring businesses. Things like laundrettes, like gardening companies, like, pressure washer companies, all this kind of stuff. What she would kind of mom and pop businesses, coffee shops, things like that. Not all the kind of, not trying to start up a tech company or start a crypto fund or whatever, right? It's just about buying businesses that actually make money day one and acquiring those using creative methods. Same stuff that we talk about, exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I kind of really resonated. I thought, okay, if we're not buying any property, could we buy businesses maybe?
Yes,
instead?
definitely.
Can we do that? Maybe we can do that.
Will you sign papers for that?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Yes. Brilliant. Okay, yeah. I'm happy now.
So yeah, it's all about, again, choose which hard you want to have. Do you want to, have the job that you hate with no way out and a poor retirement, or choose a hard which is like, okay, let's spend the next 5 to 10 years building something that is going to be worthwhile and give you what you want.
Choose your hard.
Yeah.
This is not an advert for a Viagra, by the way, but
I was waiting for you to get that gag in somewhere.
Oh, you're the one that's
surprised it's 38 minutes in before you crack that.
Anywho, so yes, I think I'll be back on the podcast for sure. Maybe talking about gong baths. I've got another session of Reiki lined up for this week. Let's see what she sees around about my kidneys this time. She'll be like, you've been consuming too much alcohol. Anyway, but thanks for having me on. And I'm sure we will be delighted to be giving an update 5 weeks down the line, end of March.
Probably before, but we'll definitely update after that. But in the meantime, if you want to find us at This Property Life, it's thispropertylife.co.uk. We come to our next networking event. Everything's on our website. You can find we're launching a whole new subscription model business that you can have a look at, where we can do weekly Zooms, updating on the industry, loads of cool stuff. So go and have a look at our website, check it out, and we will see you next time.